Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. And I don't think this one's gonna work. I've got a few things here on my desk that I want to show you because it's going to lead into what we're doing today. These are napkin backs. You know, the part that you tear off. And I think this is only one ply here. Yeah. Why is this one coming apart? There we go. See how you just kind of tear it apart. Okay, so we have these two, and this is a full one, I think. It's one of those smaller, but it was cute. Yeah, and this is just a one ply. But what we're going to be doing with these today is, ew, cobwebs. I made this years ago, and if you can see this paper under here, let me see if I can show it to you. See how it's got roses in it and leaves? It's very kind of abstract-y, but it's very pretty, and I love the colors that came out in it. And I added some cheesecloth and a little bit of lace around the top. But this paper, I actually made this paper, and I'm going to show you how I did that today. But what's interesting about this paper is you don't only have to put it on bottles and that sort of thing. You can actually put it on pretty much anything. So yeah, this is what we're doing. Let me put that to the side. Now to start with, you need napkin packs, just the plain, white stuff. You need a set of watercolors. Doesn't matter what kind. This is mine. This is supposed to be one of those airtight, keeps them wet. It doesn't really do that job, but yeah, these are all my colors in my watercolor palette, and it's just a bunch of cheap watercolors. It's nothing fancy. We're gonna have to have that. You want some super soft brushes. You don't want them super stiff because we're gonna be getting this wet, and it's so thin that if it's not a soft brush, you'll end up tearing this. So you want something super soft, super nice. A jar of water, which I have here, and some watercolor paper. Now you're wondering, why watercolor paper? We're not painting watercolors today. No, but this makes a great drop cloth for under our napkin backs. And then later on, because the watercolor goes through the napkin onto the watercolor paper, this will be colored as well, and you can use them as tags, journaling cards, whatever. So let me put that to the side. Alrighty. So I'm going to move a bunch of this to the side. And I'm just going to put my watercolor paper down, put the napkin down over top, and get a spritz bottle of water. And I'm going to wet all my paints. If I can get this to work. Now your watercolors, you don't want them super wet, and the reason being is because we're going to be doing this as well. I'm going to take this dry portion and kind of straighten it all out so it's smooth, or smooth-ish. Make sure all this is wet. And this is when the fun begins. So I'm going to take some, might have been frame here, almost. Okay. And I'm going to take some pink. And I'm going to do some roses. And I'm going to get this watercolored where it's kind of soupy, but not runny, if that makes any sense. And these are just simple roses. Nothing extraordinary. And we'll just... They're basically, like C's. Like that. And I'm just going to do them all over. And then you can go in and fill in I was wanting to have like one already finished so you could see the finished product. But I didn't get a chance. But it's all good because I have an example which you've probably seen a few times in my regular videos. That. Okay. Grab a paper towel. Clean my brush off a little bit. I'm going to grab this one and my spritz bottle, and I'm just going to spritz them just ever so slightly, and it lets them kind of bleed out a little bit. So I'm going to take this flat brush, and I'm just going to put in a little bit of color here and there. It doesn't have to be perfect, which is nice. There we go. All right. I'll clean that off. And back to the spritzer. Okay. Now I'm going to take my round brush again. And I'm going to dip into some green. Not too dark, not too light. And I'm going to put little leaves here and there. And it's basically just a, you kind of smush and then pull up. And then we're just going to fill in all these little white marks with leaves. Something like this. And it kind of makes it look like a little garden, for lack of a better term, but it does. Let's see. One up here. And we're going to let this rest for just a bit. Let's see if there's any other place I need one. Okay. You see how this is kind of like starting to smush into itself? That's because we've spritzed it. Which we want that, but we also want it to have a little bit of, come on, get watery. So what we're going to do is we're going to add some shadow. And we're just going to go inside. Come on. And I'm using a purple. Got to give a little bit of shadow to the inside of the roses. Just like that. We're basically doing the same pattern, but we're just following the pink that we put down, or the red, or whatever you want to call it. Just like so. Now this is also like if you've run out of napkins, or you're not happy with the colors of the napkins you have, you want something that's a little bit more red or more pink, or that's when this comes in. And you can do your own stuff. Okay, now I'm going to let that rest. I mean, you can keep adding different colors if you want to. You don't have to. But now I'm just going to spritz again. Very lightly. And now you can see how it's just kind of spreading out a little bit. Now let me show you what it was that I was referring to. If I can find them. Where'd you go? Oh, goodness. I know I had them here. I know, at least one. If I can find it. I'm having a hard time here. Goodness gracious. Maybe it's not in here. Oh. I don't understand where it all disappeared to. I had several tags that I had made. From some paper that was made from that, like this. I just don't know what happened to them. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. I found them. Now, instead of using watercolor paper, you can if you have some seriously ugly 12 by 12s, okay? Stuff that you just were like, that's got to be the ugliest pattern ever known to man. And I'll never use it the way it is. Oh, come here. Okay. This, if you can see the black dots in the background, that's what that paper looked like. And I was like, no, can't do it. So I covered a piece of 12 by 12 with a piece of napkin. I used Mod Podge to lay it down on there. It has a little bit of a wrinkly effect to it, which is kind of cool. I love the texture. And then I just painted over it. This has been chopped up since because I've made tags and cards and all sorts of stuff. And this is the remainder of it. But you can see how if you do that and then you paint over this. Now this can be, once it's dry, you can go ahead and Mod Podge this to a 12 by 12, let it dry, and then cut it up into really cool tags. I've been doing this for a while now, and I love the outcome. It really is cool. Or, like I showed you before, you can do other things with it. Because this was a bit of paper that was left over, and I went ahead and Mod Podged it onto a bottle, and then coated it with the iridescent medium, and it came out looking like this. And I really truly love this because it just gives you so many different things you can do with it. So that is that one. Now I'm going to move this aside, and you can see how this is, you know, it's over the side of an 8x8. You could go ahead and just tear this edging off. This is not going to stick to the watercolor paper because there's no glue involved with this, it's just water. So once it's dry, we're going to end up with a little bit of paint on the card. But it's not going to stick. So I'm just going to pull this off. Ah. Oops. Somebody's not cooperating. There we go. Just yank it off. And then we'll just let this sit and dry. There we go. Okay. Yeah. Alright, so I'm going to let that sit and dry. Now you could hit this with a heat gun. It's not going to hurt anything. You could definitely do that. Now just make sure you spritz it with water after you've put a coat of paint down. Because what that does is it carries the paint underneath and puts it on the watercolor card. Because we're going to use that along with it. So I'm going to put that aside. And let's say you don't want to do flowers. You want to do something, you know, that's not as taxing. You don't want to do anything that's that girly. I'm going to come on, get on there. And this is just like half of a normal sheet. You can just leave those little wrinkles in there. Okay. And then I'm just going to take my watercolors. Let's re-wet those too. They have a tendency to dry out pretty fast. Okay. So let's say you're doing a men's journal. And you don't want anything too flowery. You don't want anything too girly looking. Alright, not a problem. I'm gonna take some blue. Hi, Mom. And I'm just going to start laying down some color in some abstract forms. In different colors that are a little more, you know, manly. And this is just dragging paint around. Literally just dragging paint around. And this kind of gives you a time to, you can just kind of mess around with your paints. You don't have to think too hard. You just relax and have fun. Because once you've sprayed the, you know, you get the paint on the way you want, you can go back, you spritz it, and it just becomes, you know, a big mess. That's not the right color yellow. You see how thick that is? That's going to be really good when we go to spray it. Okay. This is just for demonstration purposes. Take my spritz bottle. And then I'm going to take, I think, see if I can find a nice yellow. Yeah, this one's a good yellow. It's got a little bit of more of a lemon to it. Now you could do this whole thing in just nothing but leaves if you wanted to. Be cool for fall. If you wanted to do it nothing but like little yellow flowers, you could. That'd be pretty too, especially with spring here. Use a different colored blue this time. There we go. Look at the way that looks. Definitely. Nice splashes of color. And I'm just gonna very lightly spritz it. So it's not so, I want a little definition. And then there we go. And that's going to dry really pretty. I mean, that's going to be really nice. Awesome. I could try to dry one and see how it goes. Let's see how this goes. I think I'm going to mute the volume here so that you aren't annoyed by this. Be right back. Alright, you can see how this is pretty dry. Almost dry. But see what the paper underneath looks like? And now we have both this to use on whatever, but we also have this to use as journaling cards or tags. And I love that texture in this. Is that not gorgeous? I mean, wow. Oh, just beautiful. And it's all usable. So you get a 2-for-1 here. And yeah, I mean, that would look great in any spring journal, whether for a girl or a guy, it doesn't matter. That is just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So yeah, let's put that down for a second. Reach over here and grab our other one. And I think I'll do the same to this and see how it turns out. But you also see how they're lighter. Watercolors dry lighter than what you see, and that's why I said you don't want to water them down too much because you're going to be spritzing it to make it give that effect. So, yeah, you just have to be careful on the paints, getting it just the right, not too runny, but not still super thick. You want it like in between, because you know you're going to be spraying. So let me try this one and see what happens. And I will be right back. And I'm back. So here's our paper. Usable for anything. I just love the way that came out, because it's going to look really good. When you hit it with the Mod Podge, the parts that are still white disappear. Especially if you're going to use it on a white paper or a glass bottle or something like that. And then here is the card. Now that came out really pretty. That came out really nice. And you can always go back and define the roses if you want to. Or you can just leave it where it's kind of an abstract. And it would come out, I think, really cool. Especially if you're going to cut this into tags. Now this is going to take a little longer to dry. It's not quite dry because it's watercolor paper. It's going to soak up the water like nobody's business. But it doesn't take too long. And this is already ready to use. So yeah, there is our tips and tricks for today. But yeah, I do this quite often because I can't actually afford to buy a whole lot of napkins. And if I've got the backs of my napkins, why not make them into something that I like and that I can use, you know? Don't have to just use them for what is that, fabric paper and things like that. You could use them just on their own. There's a few other things I've made with this sort of thing. Let me get this candle out of here. This is a candle holder I made using the same type of paper. It was a napkin and I painted it. And then I have another one. Let's see if I can find it. I think it was done with was it just done with regular, where'd you go? Well, I can't find it now. But it's a small tea light as well, and yeah, these work great for decoupaging over glass. Um, if that's something you're into. But I truly love how the way the paper looks. I mean, that's just, oh, that's so pretty. I don't know if you guys, oops, come on, get back to your normal state. There we go. So, you can see that? Isn't that beautiful? Just perfect. And it's so easy and simple to do. It's not like it takes a whole lot of time, or you could just keep going doing these and just make all types of different colors and patterns, and you could actually do like lines, zigzags, circles, whatever you like, and it comes out great. And the cards are just so pretty. So pretty. Can't wait to use these. So yeah, people, there is our craft for today for our live feed. And like I said, don't forget that you can actually take these and decoupage them onto, glass, or onto a regular piece of card. Just put it down on a piece of card and leave all those little crunchy lines and everything, because it just adds to the texture. And you can use your ugly 12 by 12s if you want. Jazz them up, make them look different. Make them into tags. So there you go. I hope you had fun here and got something from this. And let me see your hand-painted napkins. So, yeah, I would love to see that. Throw some pictures on my Instagram if you are so inclined. So, so I will talk to y'all later. Until